Hey everyone, welcome back. It is now time for What DIVOC reading with me, Chuck the author. It is chapter 8. 1 is the loneliest number. Week 6, April 20th to 26th, 2020. Here we go. Another week goes by, more stress, boredom, and frustrations, but less clarity. One consistency during this ordeal is the unknown, and the change never ends. Experts spew what should and shouldn't be done by you, me, and everyone else in between. Hypocrites everywhere preach to the public but don't practice what they preach, as they pontificate on their public pulpit. Frustration, anger, and resentment simmer for some, while others stay the course and stay in a positive state of mind, all things considered. Lando Prump continues to voice his opinion, shared by some, but not by most. Depending on where you live in the world, strategies vary greatly with differing death toll outcomes. What the bleep is going on here? Now there's talk of mandatory mask wearing at all times. What's next? Forcing us to take our temperature before entering a building? Tagging us with a phone app to track our movements? People, yes, this is a tough time for all. But do the ends justify the means? Will they take away our civil liberties? Are we being overcautious with these preventive measures? Is this all a government conspiracy? They can't stop the world from spinning because some people get sick and die. The talk is we need to do what's best for everyone. At the expense of the individual? Sure, okay. That does not mean, though, however, we should halt life for everyone else because of the weakest among us. Didn't Darwin say all the way back in 1857 that natural selection is simple, powerful, and maybe even cruel? Individuals best adapted to their environments are the ones more likely to survive and reproduce. That's life. Are we supposed to save some people from themselves? These are the questions I pose to you, my listeners. What do you think? Are we going too far or not far enough? It's late April 2020 and it's time for the wake-up call. I'll be back after this short commercial break. This has been the most difficult week for Jake to date. What happened in Nova Scotia a week prior and the panic that ensued about Miles' well-being has him thinking about his own life and what he's doing with it. Everything can be taken away in a blink of an eye. That's how precious life is. Whether it's a virus, an accident, a heinous crime, or a sickness, you never really know. Something has to change for him, and he has to be the catalyst of that change. On the positive side, his tete-a-tete with his father cleared the air and brought a rebirth to their relationship. And finally, he and Kate have been doing well, but he senses the mounting stress on her from work and family life. He feels helpless. He can only make her laugh and distract her from the difficult day-to-day so much. If only she would let her guard down and actually see him. Maybe the next level of intimacy could be he helped her feel less alone with all her responsibilities. But Kate's been reluctant to take the plunge. Isn't there something he can do? She did like the virtual dinner surprise. He'll keep thinking of what he can do next. LeBlanc and Jake have decided they'll meet up and do a balcony hangout that night. They are capable of socially distancing, and neither of them has the virus anyway. Both agree that they can't live life in fear all the time. Monroe, however, has made a decision. As the head of the household, at least in his own mind, he has, unannounced to anyone else, reached out to Lando via phone to meet and talk about Ryan. While it never worked out between his daughter and Lando, Monroe still occasionally calls Lando to tell him about what he likes about his show, and well, Lando loves the secrecy of the entire thing. He is adept at pulling out nuggets of information from Monroe that he can use against Kate from time to time if he needs to. Monroe tells Evelyn that he's going to get some fresh air and take a walk, but he has secretly set up a meeting with Lando at a nearby park to talk, man to man, as Monroe puts it in his mind. If Evelyn or Kate knew about Papa Bear's plan, he'd be in big trouble. Monroe feels that Ryan is desperate for some attention from his father, and he thinks he's the one to make that happen. Kate has assembled her staff, socially distancing, and begins a closed-door meeting in the common area. All the residents are out of earshot. She explains what they as a team have done right. Implemented a pandemic plan earlier than most, banned visitors and outsiders, tested employees and residents, ensured staff hasn't worked in multiple seniors' homes to limit cross-center contamination, sanitize, and sanitize their equipment, worn the protective personal equipment at all times, stayed home if anyone shows symptoms until they are all clear. They've worked as a team with openness and empathy for their residents, and they supported one another as they faced their own personal challenges. And even with all of that, they've still not been able to keep the virus completely out of the residents. It's not as bad as many other homes, but even one death due to the virus is one too many for Kate and her team. She takes full responsibility as the leader of the group, as her leadership style has always been to give her staff the credit and take the blame when tough sledding was ahead. The goal of the discussion is an opportunity for everyone to express concerns or ideas as to how to improve anything. Employee after employee shows solidarity and commitment. We are in this together, and our residents need us more than ever. Nobody should live alone or have to die alone, strikes a chord after it's said. They add ways to give those who are sick more humanity. They've used video conferencing technology, allowed loved ones to speak with residents. Residents can now see a grandchild, their adult child, or someone who means something to them, and that has kept morale up during an extremely grim time. The session is difficult, yet cathartic for the staff, as Kate's team needed this. She ends with a very smart lady once told me, "We are family here, and always family. We always stick together. And I promise you I'll fight with every ounce I have for all of you." Kate has a small tear in her eye, and she quickly wipes it away to remain stoic. Everyone smiles while thinking that's exactly what Iris would have said in this moment. Her wisdom will be greatly missed. Kate walks out of the room and sees Rupert chugging along doing normal, quirky Rupert things. He stops her. "Hey, boss lady, you look upset." Kate is not in the mood to speak to the often confused elderly man, but he's reaching out to her and deserves a small chat. "Yes, you are right, Rupert. I am sad. I keep thinking of Iris. I miss her. She was a great lady. I miss her a lot." Rupert looks at her perplexed. "Who's Iris? Is that the one of the older ladies?" Rupert knows who Iris was, but his memory continues to fail him. It still hurts to hear that response from him. "Rupert, she lived here. You knew her. She was a great lady." "Ah, okay." Rupert nods and adds, "Old people, we forget them sometimes. People don't think they're as important as others." Kate turns her head sharply as Rupert walks away and thinks, "What the?" but takes a moment and contemplates what Rupert just said. There is some sad truth to his statement. Do we forget our older generation? Do we value them less than others? This definitely didn't make her feel better, and at that moment, Jake sends a text that says, "Thinking of you today, and I wanted to say how impressed and lucky I am to know you." Kate reads it and goes back to her office. It came at such a good time. Those kind words helped her morale, at least a little. Jake finishes reading a quick thank you back from Kate as he sits in his car before tackling yet another grocery shopping adventure. With a little spring in his step, he walks towards a very busy building. Never in his wildest dreams could he have ever imagined that this weekly, sometimes bi-weekly, excursion would be one of the highlights of his day. Today, however, will be an experience that he won't soon forget. He waits an hour outside in the rain as the lineup to get in was monstrous. Of course, he forgot his umbrella as the initial drizzle turned into raining cats and dogs monsoon. The place is packed. The store has increased arrows on the floor, added plexiglass dividers, and other safety measures. He notices how much quicker he is at finding the stuff that his father and Arthur have asked for. But how much bologna, hard candy, rice, and canned peaches can two men go through? As he's about to grab the last can of peaches, a lady roughly the same age starts yelling at him, "Back up, back up!" Jake is taken aback. He simply leaned over to grab the can that was well above the lady's head as she was crouched down dissecting the various canned fruits for what seemed like 5 minutes. Okay, relax. Sorry, I was just..." And then bam! The lady swings her umbrella around like she was about to toss an Olympic hammer and smacks Jake right upside his chest, taking him completely by surprise. 2 meters, I said, 2 meters. You need to be 2 meters away. She continues to swing her umbrella, creating an imaginary barrier around her. Lady, relax. What's wrong with you? Get back, get back, get back. She starts to sob and sits in the fetal position on the grocery store floor. Jake looks around. Everyone stops and looks at him. He feels the judging eyes like he did something wrong. The store manager comes over to decipher what happened as the lady is sobbing uncontrollably. A busybody, know-it-all man out of nowhere comes, points at Jake, and says, "That man is not respecting the rules. He was getting closer and closer to this lady as she was minding her own business." I was what? Jake is shocked from the blatant false judgment and the vilification directed at him from this random person. The store manager does a good job keeping the peace and asks if Jake could come with him. As they walk away, Jake turns back and sees the lady still sobbing as another staff member, "Hey, it's Ryan," comes over to tend her. Jake can only faintly hear, "He's gone, he's gone." The manager brings Jake to the front of the store and says, "Sir, we have rules to follow for the security of everyone." Jake Lee quickly responds, "What? She overreacted. I didn't do anything wrong." The manager, unable to truly know what happened, asks Jake to please respect the rules and to try to stay clear of other customers. Jake finishes up shopping without any incidents, but notices a couple of snickering looks. Jake leaves and walks towards the car. Ryan spotted him and comes running up behind him. "Hello, sir. I just wanted to let you know you didn't do anything wrong. The lady kept saying her husband is gone. He's gone. It seems her husband died from the virus last week and she had a panic attack or something. She was a little hard to understand, but I thought you should know that." Jake stops and is stunned for a second and looks straight at Ryan, not saying anything as he processes what he was just told. "Thank you for telling me. I didn't know. I just thought I was..." And he doesn't say anything else. Ryan adds, "I just thought you should know it wasn't about you." Jake thanks Ryan again. They smile at each other, and Jake heads to his car. Monroe marches to the park where he secretly waits for Lando to show up. Lando is already 15 minutes late, which doesn't impress Monroe, but he doesn't let it bother him. He is on a mission. Lando strolls up to his son's grandfather. "There he is, the superstar himself," blurts out Monroe. Lando puts out his hand and the two men shake hands. Lando does his patented, over-aggressive, strong man handshake. The social distancing reminders Kate keeps talking about over and over at home didn't seem to seep into Monroe's psyche as both men completely forgot or disregard the prescribed course of action during this pandemic. The men sit on the park bench talking without masks, pretending like nothing is really happening around them. They talk about their favorite expression, society's softies, and Monroe adds a couple of comments about his love for Lando's show. Finally, the elder statesman equates the pandemic to a messed up war where you can't see the enemy and maybe he's hiding anyway, or he's not even there. Who knows? Maybe a few yards away, a bunch of 20-year-olds toss a frisbee while having a picnic. They do resemble a herd of animals in heat circling around one another, and they don't have a care in the world. Like these two judgmental gentlemen, they ignore the public health guidelines. Monroe states, "This upside-down war has old men dying as young men talk." Lando says, "Hey, you flipped Franklin Roosevelt's quote. That's an interesting twist, Monroe. I like that." Lando adds, "I'd say we're doing too much talking." Monroe quips back, "It's funny that a talk radio host would say there's too much talking." They both laugh at the irony of it all. Monroe now cuts to the chase. "Listen, you need to do something for Ryan. His mother and him are at wit's end with one another, and you need to step up and help. Kate doesn't know we are talking, and I want you to keep it that way, but call your son. He should go live with you for a little bit. It would be good for him, his mother, and yourself." Lando is surprised Monroe has asked or told him this. Monroe has never meddled in the affairs of his daughter and Lando before. Lando bounces back with a roundabout, of course. Yeah, I'll give him a call and see what I can do. I know he's been asking, but really, I'm at work all the time, and Lana and kids, that's like oil and water. And isn't he doing the online school thing and working at the grocery store anyway? He might get bored at my house. Monroe, however, won't stand for Lando's skirting around the request. "He's my grandson. I love him, and he needs his father right now. His mother is trying to baby him, and you can help. Just do what's right, period." Lando's eyes go wide. For the first time in a long time, he's kind of tongue-tied. Okay, I'll call him. You're right. Lando makes up an excuse that he needs to leave, and he's already decided that he'll have to be creative about how he's going to weasel out of this one. Saying no to his son is easy. He's done that his entire life. But he has had to deal with the battle-axe old ex-military man giving him orders now. Yeah, right. He'll think of something. The two men part ways, and Monroe senses he strong-armed his will, but is satisfied that results will happen. Must have been around a 45-minute conversation, much longer than anticipated, with a few intense moments. Must have been when voices were raised that the COVID-laced air particles passed from Lando to Monroe. What DIVOC? Monroe may have won the battle of words, but he now harbors a Trojan horse virus that he's about to bring home to his family, that he caught from Lando. Jake has groceries again, and this time Arthur pops his head out as he knocks on the door. Arthur, here are your groceries. How you doing? Dad says you haven't been feeling well. Arthur shrugs off, but he is visibly not well. And Jake, for the first time, says something a little bit more cautious. Don't you think you should go to the hospital just to be sure? Jake thinks for a moment. Does he dare say it? Yes, he dares. I could take you. Matt can hear the voices talking outside his door and pops his head out. There he is, referring to Arthur. Mac and his buddy haven't seen each other all that much lately. Arthur's too stubborn to get checked out, and he says, I'm not dying, I'm just old and I have a little flu or something. Hell, I've only seen you two over the last few weeks, and you're both fine. It's not the virus, and I'm not going to any hospital to potentially get sick or even catch the damn thing there. I'll ride it out. Thank you for the groceries. And by the way, you are picking better fruit, not as soft as before, so keep it up. Arthur closes the door and heads back inside. Mac and Jake look at each other and shrug their shoulders. Jake says, he sure is stubborn. Jake and his dad talk again about Nova Scotia, as Mac has reached out to some of his childhood friends to know how everyone is back at home. It's disheartening with so many unanswered questions. Mac mentions how it's only been 2 weeks, but the local news cycle has already moved on to other events and back almost exclusively on virus coverage. Jake adds, memories are so short sometimes. How does society simply move on so nonchalantly and quickly to the next thing in our world? It's like those events become old news and don't matter. Mac agrees. It leaves an uneasy feeling in the pit of both of their stomachs. Mac ends it by wanting a quick update about Jake's young lady. Jake is still smitten with her when he talks about her. Even if they haven't been able to follow the standard dating patterns, it's working so far. He just wishes he could see her. Mac says, stay on track. Take off as, stay on track. Things will happen for a reason. She's worth it. You got to keep fighting for her. Jake needs to take off, and he mentions he's about to go hang out with LeBlanc. Mac says, oh, okay, but secretly wonders if Jake really should. He decides to say nothing, as his son also needs some other company other than himself, and he doesn't want to overreact. It's a confusing thought process to figure out what one should or should not do. This is a confusing time indeed. Jake heads out the door and both men smile. Mac immediately sits back down in his favorite chair and starts talking to a picture of his Therese. He tells her that he thinks Jake has found something special with Kate. He's never seen him this invested, caring, and patient and excited about a woman before. He thinks their son has found maybe her. He just feels it. Mac is happy to recount all of Jake's adventures to his wife's photo. And sadly, it's really the only other person or picture of a person he has to talk to other than Jake. Mac asks Therese for some help. Sweetie, I don't know if you have any pull up there in heaven, but see if you can call in a favor. I don't want Jake to be as lonely as I am without you. Yes, I know I'll see you one day, but if you can pull some strings up there, make this girl and him work out, I think that would be amazing. Jake shows up at LeBlanc's house, and the two men go for a fist bump, but surprisingly realize that they shouldn't do that. They sit on LeBlanc's balcony as a slight wind makes it a comfortable environment to shoot the breeze, so to speak. They talk about everything, and their hangout moment helps fill some of the lonely gaps that neither of them want to admit to one another, but they both inherently feel. The conversation ranges from the ridiculous, are prostitutes also entitled to the government subsidy? LeBlanc feels the oldest profession in the world should be considered, the very serious. Neither of them knows anybody who has this virus firsthand, let alone someone who's died from it. Jake explains his experience at the grocery store with a swinging umbrella lady, and they talk about their non-existent sex lives. LeBlanc mentions his deliveries and the uber crazies out there who won't even let him anywhere near some of the buildings. People tell me to drop stuff up on the sidewalk and leave. It's so strange. He also adds that Jake looks like he's lost some weight. You're looking good, bud. Keep it up. Keep up the running. It's starting to show. That sissy Bud Light lime beer gut starting to disappear on you. They both laugh, and Jake doesn't say anything, but it actually makes him feel really good to hear that. He decides to take a pot shot at his buddy. Hey, I may have poor taste in beer, but buddy, come on. Have you given up on even getting dressed anymore? You're wearing a basketball jersey as everyday attire, and it's an old one to boot. No kidding. You haven't had a date in months. They both laugh again. LeBlanc is wearing a Sacramento Kings Vlade DIVOC jersey. Such an obscure garment to be wearing, but for LeBlanc, it's about wearing comfy clothes right now as they each down a couple of balcony beers. Luckily, the wind keeps up, but Jake takes off after his hour-long visit. The only thing that passed along from LeBlanc to Jake was a few laughs and a couple of Coors Light Silver Bullet beers. And nothing as serious as an infectious virus. They dodged that DIVOC bullet. Very fortunate for them. Monroe walks into the family home strutting like a proud peacock. He thinks he's solved the Ryan, Kate, and Lando problem, and that finally his bold take-charge action will get the family back on the right track. Evelyn has been sitting at the kitchen table for the last 30 minutes as the so-called walk her husband never take. He never wants to take a walk willingly, especially by himself, and his smug grin points to something being up. She can see it. She asks, "How was your walk? Where did you end up going?" She gingerly prods with a couple of softball questions. He answers, "You know, a little here and a little over there, nowhere special." "Monroe Celeste, where did you really go?" "I went for a walk, woman." He snaps back, and he senses she's on to his lie. As she continues, "Fine, don't tell me. That is your choice. You just better not be getting into any kind of trouble, mister." Monroe scoffs, and then she adds, "And by the way, don't bother coming to bed tonight. There's no room for a liar in my bed." "What?" Monroe is shocked by the drastic measures his wife has taken. She answers back very sternly, "Listen to me, old man. Don't you ever mistake my kindness for weakness. I'm getting quite sick and tired of your attitude," she blurts out. "What, you want me to leave? Do it," he snaps back. She concludes, "You know, sometimes I think I should have done exactly that. I could have found a much nicer man than you long, long ago. Guess that's my life regret." Evelyn gets up and walks into her bedroom and slams the door. Monroe is shocked. Utterly shocked. His wife has never said something so hurtful. He can't believe it. Could she actually mean it? Evelyn continues to be more and more unlike her sweet self. She's becoming more and more depressed and agitated in his mind. Her mental health continues to suffer, but at least her physical health has stayed intact. Ryan calls his dad as he was a little shaken from today's events at the grocery store, and he's never really seen a lady break down like that. He wants to know if his dad has made a decision about him coming to live with him for a little bit, at least until the thing is over. He thinks it would just make it easier on his mom and, well, especially him. Lando sees that his son is calling but chooses not to answer, as he hasn't figured out what he'll say to deflect the conversation away from Ryan coming to stay at his place. Lando, for only selfish reasons, doesn't really think it's a good idea, but he can't use that as an excuse. He figures he'll call him in a couple days once he has a plan. Ryan is frustrated he hasn't heard back from his father, which of course then makes his attitude edgier at home, and undoubtedly he'll take it out on the rest of the family, Kate, Grandma, and Grandpa. Kate is home having a late dinner, and she's had a short text conversation with Jake as she's exhausted from everything, but mentions she'll call him tomorrow. She apologizes that she hasn't had much time to chat over the last few days, but Jake understands. So both are very comfortable in the manner in which they communicate with one another. Ryan comes out of his room, hurt from the lack of response from his father and not wanting to say anything about it to his mother. Kate says, "How you doing, son?" Out of nowhere, he snaps back, "Mom, stop. Stop asking how I am. You know how I am. I'm miserable. Life sucks right now, and until this stupid virus is over, it's just going to suck even more. There's nothing you can do about it or even make it better. I'm just fed up." Kate understands that her son is also living with a lot of stress, and she wants to fix it for him. Ryan is exhausted and needs to get some rest, though. As a matter of fact, Kate is tired and needs some rest, too. Sleep deprivation, whether it's from exhaustion, insomnia, anxiety, stress, depression, or whatever, seems to be all too common for folks right now. Pandemic fatigue is quite present and is chiseling away at everyone's nerves. This has been the most eventful day for Jake in weeks. He saw his father, and then he saw LeBlanc, went some grocery shopping, had a weird but still exciting experience, and he talked with Kate. The loneliness of being mostly by himself and thinking, then overthinking and thinking some more, could have easily taken a huge bite out of his mental well-being. But he is remaining his usual positive self for the most part. He remembers what LeBlanc said. You're looking good, bud. Keep on running. Starting a show. And he figures he'll try another late evening jog. Unknowingly, this regular exercise and diversion from the mundane of his apartment is helping his mental health as well. His perspective and outlook on life, which could have easily diverted and plunged into self-pity and wallowing, like many others have done, has remained mostly positive. He keeps that life sucks attitude away from taking over his mindset and has a rather hopeful perspective. Things will get better. It's just around the corner. It's probably the best way to describe what his mind is at. And you know what? He's been running for about 15 minutes now, and around every corner, people seem to be politely nodding to him and acting friendly. There are always those very rare times when a few people cross the street immediately after noticing him heading in their direction. But that's their problem. It's always been their problem. He's focused on himself and jogs with a smile instead of excluding a look of pain or anguish. Others sense the positivity and are more inclined to smile back. It's a matter of perspective and outlook. The glass half full. Maybe it does make a difference, after all. Monroe has not enjoyed sleeping on the couch with his wife. The argument that they had earlier in the day has left him confused, and he asks himself, why was she so curt with me? This is not like her. He decides at night to sneak into her bedroom as everyone is sleeping and slide beside his wife and hold her. Evelyn is awoken, but the touch of her husband, even when she is really mad at him, gives her some comfort. She is lonely and hurting and depressed, and at least he's trying to show some affection. Monroe, also unknowingly to either of them, demonstrates another example of how easily it is to infect a loved one inadvertently. DIVOC covers both of them as they snuggle with their new unwanted and potentially deadly virus. That, my friends, is chapter 8. See you next time.